Hi everybody, this is Jeremy Siskett here. I'm the author of these books, Playing Solo Jazz Piano, Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 1, Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 2. I don't know what that voice is, but I think it's great. And today I want to kind of introduce you to one of my favorite games to play at the piano to start coming up with really fresh, original solo piano arrangements. Now, if you've been reading Playing Solo Jazz Piano, you know that I often think about the jazz piano solo tradition based on the organization of the bass, chords, and melody, right? Like the core part, the core challenge of playing solo jazz piano is managing three different parts with just two hands. So, right, like when we play stride, we take the bass and the chords, and we play both of those with our left hand so that we can play the melody in our right hand. Or when we're playing a bass line, usually we have to play both the melody and chords somehow in the right hand. You can read a heck of a lot more about that in Playing Solo Jazz Piano, and I've made a bunch of videos that reference that concept. But we could also take kind of a different approach. We could look at classical piano pieces that we like, and then take just the way they're presented at the piano and try to present a jazz piece in that same way, and we can get some really interesting results. Let me show you what I mean. I figured that most people are familiar with Clair de Lune, so I thought that'd be a nice place to start. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to work to isolate the presentation at the piano, and I use this word texture to describe the presentation of the piano from the content. By content, I mean what kind of intervals are in the melody, what kind of chord tones and chords are being used, and even to some extent, what kind of rhythms are being used. Okay, so for instance, I think until we get here, what's interesting about this is that we have the interval of a third, I think, all the time in both hands, right? It's the third. This looks like a second, but it's a G flat from the key signature, so that sounds like a third. And everything in the right hand is a third as well. So that's kind of interesting, both hands just playing thirds. It's also in the upper register, it's all above middle C. The hands are about an octave apart. And the hands are mostly not playing at the same time. It's mostly kind of an exchange, right? The right hand's not playing when the left hand comes in on any of these beats. So I've chosen the tune Summertime because I figured a lot of people would be familiar with that tune. I'll play it in F minor, A flat major. So I figured, wouldn't it be interesting to try to do a version of Summertime where I'm doing these same things, where I'm playing just the interval of a third in that same register. So let's see what happens. I guess I'll leave Clair de Lune up. So first, just the right hand. And you can select major thirds, minor thirds. It's kind of fun to try different things. Okay. So I feel like I've got a good idea of the right hand, so I'm going to try to choose some notes in the left hand that are going to be harmonious against those notes in the right hand. I might have to think about this. It might require a couple tries, but let's see what happens. I don't know if I was completely happy with that, but it made a certain amount of sense. As I was playing, I was also thinking about how the left hand here is always just creeping down. It's not really leaping around. And I wonder if I could do that a little bit better. I'm going to try one more time for at least part of it. So that may or may not be your favorite version of Summertime. I'm guessing it's not. But it's a really interesting, unusual place to start. Now, I'd probably have to make some edits in order to make this work. Because, as you could see, the melody of Summertime has a bigger range than the melody of Clair de Lune. So I might not be able to creep quite so much with the left hand as Debussy does. Or I might have to start lower. And then the melody of Summertime doesn't rest on beat 1 all the time like the melody of Clair de Lune does. So sometimes I might have to have the hands come together. So it's never really going to be a perfect 1-to-1 ratio, right? So what I might do then is look for the next interesting pianistic texture. And for me, it's pretty interesting here at this tempo rubato. So what's happening here is that we have a low bass note in octaves. And then I see the melody be playing in 3 different octaves. That's a high F if you need help with the ledger lines, a lower F, and then a treble clef F. So 3 different octaves. In the right hand, there's notes in between the octaves. And in the left hand, there's 2 notes above each of the octaves. Sounds like this. So, there's also repeated notes. I think it's worth mentioning that I don't know if that's necessarily counts as part of the pianistic texture, but I think it's really relevant here. So if I try to do that same thing for Summertime, let's see what would happen. I might go. Probably need to be lower. So it needs a little bit of workshopping, but man, that's an interesting vibe, I think. Something that I never would have thought to play. And if I was a little bit looser about my rules, I'm demonstrating, of course, then I think we would actually get some really kind of cool stuff. Let's tackle another texture in Clair de Lune. You guys might know this part. Let me make this bigger for you. So what I see here is that we have a melody in thirds and maybe I guess a sixth there, but let's say 2-note, a melody harmonized with another note. And then there's these 6-note upwards arpeggios, right? And each beat there's a different arpeggio, or at least a different inversion of an arpeggio. Now, Debussy is splitting these arpeggios between the right and the left hand. We don't necessarily have to do that same thing, but that's kind of an interesting thought. So let's see what we can come up with here. So the register makes it really difficult because I'm constantly kind of having to change whether I'm playing more notes with the right hand, more with the left, whether the two hands are running into each other. So these are challenges that you have to then work out. Let me show you one more spot that might inspire us here. I just think this is really interesting. It's very small, it's just 2 beats. But so here there is an octave between, that's a G flat, that's a G flat, between the top and the bottom. And then the chord is just being filled in with 2 triplets here. And the shape of this is also interesting, right? Down, up, down, up, down, up. So let's see if I can do something similar with Summertime. So I had a challenge of figuring out what to do with longer notes there. I just chose to repeat the lower note. But again, this is kind of setting a mood in an interesting way. So you can certainly choose any piece of music and just open up a page. We could look at, Chopin nocturnes. And we could look at this very first nocturne. I think this is Opus 9. Oops. I don't know what's happening with these pages. Or this nocturne. That's fine. And we could see, okay, that very first pattern is 3 notes up, goes up an octave, goes up and then down. I've got a very different version of Summertime. And I'm not really thinking necessarily bass, chords, melody, although all those elements are there. I'm just thinking about trying to imitate this Chopin. So maybe let me try to do a version where I try to mix some of these textures. I'm not sure if this is going to work. I should practice these things. But where's the fun in that? So I'm going to start with that opening idea of those thirds. it's not performance ready, but you could see how I could make a compelling arrangement out of those elements. So play this game. Pick out your favorite piece of solo piano music and grab the texture, ignoring the rest of what's going on. By the way, if chapter 17 of Playing Solo Jazz Piano is about this. It's called Classical Inspiration. So if you want a little bit more information, you want to see some examples in front of you, that's a really good place to go. You can get it at jeremysiskin.com. Thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate you all. I'll see you soon.